Hi, and welcome to Hagen Homestead. So today we're going to talk about a really fun topic, and that would be debt. So I graduated in May 2018. I did all the right things. I went to college. I got a good degree. I went to an affordable college, for one, in state. I got a degree that I knew I would make money in. I did internships that made me money, and I graduated very blessed to have a job that made pretty good money. I had worked really hard through high school. I worked really hard for the ACT. I ended up with 30, which I'm pretty proud of. Not that it matters now, but you know. I got scholarships. I worked multiple jobs through college. James worked multiple jobs. I shared a house the entire time through college. And I still left school with $21,000 in student loans, which is a lot less than most people nowadays, but it's still a big number. Then, when I did get a job, it was in South Georgia. I had a horse at that point, which for me is a necessity. We can argue that all day long, but if you are a horse person, you understand that's a necessity. I had purchased a trailer with thanks to the help of a relocation package with my company, and I worked off $700 of that trailer, so I worked for it too. But I needed a truck to pull it because I had an S10 that I had bought when I was 17 with money that I had made since working for a company since I was 12. So I paid for that in cash, but obviously an S10 isn't big enough to pull a horse trailer. So I needed a truck. I didn't have any money to go through a private dealer like I would have liked to. I mean, I had zero cash, zero. So what I had to do was I ended up getting a loan for it, and I got a pretty good rate, and I got a used truck. But if anyone's ever purchased a truck, especially from a dealer, you know that even used trucks are still expensive trucks. So I ended up spending $28,000 on my truck. It was 5 years old. It was a pretty good deal at the time, honestly, but that's still a big number. And it was a need for me, but it was still a big number. So right out of the starting gate of adulthood, I was $49,000 in debt. And that was not an ounce of credit card debt, not even a penny. I actually didn't get a credit card until I was 22 years old. 2 months from turning 23, actually. I got my first credit card less than a month ago. So what I did was I moved down to Georgia, got a big kid job, whatever, and I was trying to figure out adulthood. So during the 6-month grace period that you have to fill out before you have to start paying your student loans, I didn't pay on them, and they kept adding interest because of course I had subsidized and unsubsidized loans, and I started paying I bought my truck in June of 2018, and I started paying off my student loans in January of 2019. But I did one smart thing. Both of those I paid over the minimum payment. So my minimum payment for my truck was $445 a month. So I rounded that up to $500, which is a lot, especially coming out of student bills to real world bills. That was a lot. But I did it. It was fine. And then when student loans hit and I had to start paying for those, the minimum for that was $212, and I rounded that up to $300. So I was basically paying $800 a month directly to bills. And about 6 months after starting paying my student loans, I was like, this really isn't going down nearly as quickly as I wanted to, and I'm like, I bet I could, just pay an extra $50 a month, and I probably wouldn't miss that, and cut down on my length of my payments. So I think I paid $300 a month for like 4 months, and then after that I started paying $350 a month. So as of January 2020, I had paid off $4,000 of my student loans and $8,000 of my truck, and that is a lot of money. So I had paid off $12,000 in a year of paying off my student loans and a year and a half of paying off my truck, but that still puts me at $37,000 in debt before I add my mortgage, which we're not going to discuss because you just have a mortgage. And until I pay off my consumer debt, there's no point in tackling my mortgage. So I have switched my game plan. I have decided that just adding a little extra payments isn't working. I need a real plan, and this is what we're going to do. So my plan is I'm going to attack it debt avalanche style. So there's two main thought processes in attacking debt. So you can either make a snowball where you start with your smallest loan amount regardless of interest rate, and then you use minimum payments on everything else and attack that with as much as you can. So you pay off that, and then everything that went from there goes to the next one and the next and the next, and you build a bigger snowball as it rolls down the hill. Or you can do a debt avalanche, which is where you start with your biggest interest rate, regardless of the amount, your biggest interest rate, and then you attack that first, and then go from your biggest to down to your smallest, and do minimum payments on the rest while you're attacking the biggest one, because you always want to do at least your minimum payments, or you get sent to collections, and that's bad. I have decided that I'm going with the debt avalanche because mathematically it works faster. However, psychologically, most people agree that the snowball works better because you get that little release of adrenaline when you pay off your first loan, and then you get another boost the next time and the next time and the next time, and you see results faster, but in the long run you pay more money. Now in mine it's like a minuscule amount. It's like $400 that I would pay in the snowball versus avalanche, but I just want to go as fast as possible, so that's what we're doing. And I've done 4 main things to make this happen. So number 1, I'm doing an actual budget. So I've been tracking my spending, and I've been tracking my spending for the past 2 years since I've been a big kid. But it was mostly just that. I was tracking how much money was going out the door. I wasn't actually using it as a budget. It wasn't like, this is my limit and that's where we're going. I did sort of, but not really. So I'm actually assigning my money to categories, and I've broken it down on my notes on my phone, and this is how much goes towards groceries, and this is how much goes towards gas, and that's all I have. And if I spend that, now it's still my money. I can change the categories as I need to, but once it's gone, and I have to weigh the cost benefit of changing the categories. With that, I have created a sinking fund for my animals. So the basis of a sinking fund is that you have a known amount of money you need to spend at a known time. So I had a dog that needed a dental every year. I have a special needs dog that has testing that has to be done twice a year, and we buy medicine for him twice a year because we buy a 6-month supply, and it's a pretty big amount. So I know that's coming up. I'm going to take his annual cost, and I added all my animal annual cost, and then divided it by my paychecks for that year, and that's how I gathered how much my sinking fund. So in theory, by the time summer rolls around and I need to buy hay for Ace, I'll have that money, and as a benefit, I'll have that money in time for the cheaper hay before waiting and having to pay $7 a bale for hay instead of $3.50 when it's fresh cut. Anyway, so number 2 is sinking funds. Number 3, I am reducing my expenses. So besides bills, which I can't really reduce except for being careful with electricity and whatnot, the biggest expense is gas. And my truck drinks gas like it is going out of style. So what we've decided to do is James has a little Hyundai. We're sharing his car whenever we can, which has already saved tremendously on gas. So I'll still use my truck if we're like, obviously if I have to haul the trailer or whatever, but anytime we can, we use his car. So that has saved us a lot. And number 4, we're increasing our income, which is a lot easier said than done, but not as hard as people make it out to be. So for me, I breed Silkies and Showgirls, the chickens, and I started that last year. We have the birds, we incubate them ourselves, sell the chicks. It's gone so well that I already have a waiting list and have had a waiting list since like the beginning of the year for chickens for sale. So I take that money and then I put that in the animal fund, and then any money that I would have gotten taken from my paycheck into the animal fund goes directly into debt. So my sinking fund stays at the level it needs to, but the amount of money I can spend towards debt can increase, which I am just really excited about. On top of that, we're doing decluttering, we're selling games, and I have like 7 saddles because I'm a horse, of course I do. Things like that, things that we don't need, things that I don't like, that kind of thing. So that is our debt plan, and I'm hoping to kind of open the conversation up, especially for people in my age group, because I know a lot of us are so stressed out, especially if you were the overachiever kids, that now that you're adults and you're bogged down with this amount of debt, it seems impossible. And let me tell you, it is not. It is going to be okay, and we got this. We got to start somewhere, right? So might as well start today. Bye, guys.